This week on Africa 54, we are running you a special series called Power Africa. This is delving into the power issues affecting the continent. So be sure to stay with us. Power outages are actually a fact of life across most of Africa, with the near daily blackouts affecting the rich and poor nations alike. And our viewers, Gabe Joselow reports on the challenges power generation and supply across Africa and what is being done now to keep this light or the lights on the continent on.
A small business in Nairobi that began as a party supply outfit has expanded to serve restaurants and supermarkets, moving more than a ton of ice a day, while their custom-made ice sculptures decorate State House events. It's an entrepreneurial success story, but Betty Mbite, office manager of the Iceman Company, says the limits of the country's power supply puts the business in jeopardy.
Sometime last year when we had about 3 days without power and we couldn't operate at all. Yes, because the machines need power, the cold room needs power, and no one can go on without any power.
To keep their swans cold and to keep their customers happy, the Iceman needs a 24-hour supply of power. But relying on Kenya's grid is proving costly, says Mbite.
It is a difficult business, especially if the power is high, because everything you make goes to the power. Yes, we pay back to the government for power.
The number one cost for this business is power. No power, no ice. But the problem is in Kenya and across much of Africa is that power is often inaccessible, expensive, and inconsistent. So the continent's leaders are trying to find ways to make power more accessible so that the business environment can heat up.
Africa is facing enormous power challenges. Some 600 million Africans have no access to electricity at all. That's 60% of the population. Africa consumes less power than any other region in the world, but pays nearly the same average tariffs as the United States and about twice as much as East Asia. Speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland this year, African Development Bank President Donald Kaberuka said energy shortages are holding countries back.
At this moment, every single African country is experiencing energy shortages and power outages. That is costing the continent 2% of the GDP. In fact, an African leader says that we are a continent of miracles. If we are growing at 5% without enough electricity, think of what we could do if we had enough electricity.
The African Development Bank says weak infrastructure is the biggest challenge to electricity distribution. Even richer nations like South Africa and Nigeria have fallen behind because of a lack of investment in power generation. While each nation presents its own challenges, Kaberuka says increasing the trade of energy across borders may help to create more consistent supplies and bring down prices.
It is not possible for our individual 54 countries to have energy security from their own domestic resources. We have to create viable regional markets for power, and that is possible.
Investors are pouring money into renewable energy projects in Africa to help lessen the energy gap, but much more is needed. Africa's booming population, expected to double by 2050, will continue to put pressure on power supplies, and failure to improve generation could mean a lot of lost opportunity. Gabe Joselow, VOA News, Nairobi.